You're listening to the Casting for Fun podcast, the show that talks about entertainment, sports, music, and inspirational stories for all to enjoy. We're glad you could join us today. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Now, here is your host, Albert Pineda.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Casting for Fun podcast. I am your host, Albert Pineda, and this week's episode is for Wednesday, April 24th, 2024. For this week's episode, we're going to be celebrating the 35th anniversary of the baseball classic, A Field of Dreams, starring Kevin Costner. And to celebrate this momentous occasion, I'm bringing in good friends, frequent collaborators, the Turner brothers, Nick and Tad Turner. They absolutely love baseball. They've been close friends of mine, like brothers to me for many years. So it's great to have them on so we can discuss baseball and talk about the significance of this movie, the various themes that are covered in this movie as well, like the relationships between fathers and sons. It's a really awesome, great conversation. So I'm grateful that I was able to spend some time with Tad and Nick to talk about baseball and sports and other movies, things that we like we used to do all the time. And it's great because we actually broke into a little bit of a extended conversation about other baseball movies, you know, The Sandlot, Major League, and then some other classic Kevin Costner baseball movies like For Love of the Game and Bull Durham. So expect to see some more of these review episodes of classic baseball movies and just movies in general as I move forward with the podcast and continue to create content that is amusing and entertaining for me, and I'm assuming is for my listeners as well. So thank you again for joining me for this episode. This is myself, Tad, and Nick talking about Field of Dreams for its 35th anniversary, which is coming up on May the 5th. So joining me tonight, Nick and Tad Turner. Gentlemen, how's everyone doing tonight?
Excellent.
Yeah, good.
Good to see you both. And it's awesome that we can get together and talk sports, but it's particularly when we're talking sports movies, and then we're talking a favorite of all of ours, Field of Dreams tonight.
So true.
Very cool.
I'm going to say I watched it today because it's been a while. Very different as an adult than as a child.
Oh, absolutely.
But we'll get into it. But yeah.
Absolutely get into it. Yeah. So it's celebrating its 35th anniversary, which is crazy to think it's that old. First released on May 5th of 1989.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, we're getting old.
Which I don't remember. I just remember watching it on like TV.
Oh yeah. I mean, as a youngster back then, like when I would have been 8, almost turning 9 that year, I didn't write it right away. It was actually later in my teenage years when I actually saw it for the first time.
Yeah. I mean, I think it became a bigger deal when we were in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you had just baseball in the 90s had its ups and downs. So.
I think I kind of remember it being one of those movies that Mike Payne was like, you guys have to watch. Like it was that one of those on the list of like have to see movies.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, actually, I mean, speaking of Mike Payne, it kind of reminds me of like Saving Private Ryan and the fact that it had gotten snubbed at the Oscars. So, nominated for 3 Academy Awards, lost out 2 of them for Best Picture and Best Adapted Screenplay to Driving Miss Daisy of all movies. Yeah. And then losing original score too. But I mean, like so many acolytes for this particular movie. I mean, Kevin Costner does a fantastic job in the lead role. And the guy just loves baseball, right? I mean, what I read is that he was a huge fan of the St. Louis Cardinals. Is that right?
I don't know, but I believe it.
Yeah, that I don't know. I know he's a huge baseball guy.
Right, because he's done multiple baseball movies, so.
Yeah. In fact, 4 that he's like the starring lead. So Bull Durham, Chasing Dreams, which was also released in the same year as Field of Dreams, and then of course For Love of the Game.
For Love of the Game,
yeah. So
Bull Durham,
classic, which has Vince Scully's voice in it. So I mean,
oh,
anytime Vince Scully's in something, you gotta love it.
Oh, absolutely. That makes it a classic automatically.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
yes, it does.
Very cool, very cool. And then a bunch of little minor things that I noticed the first time around. Oh no, that I noticed this repeat viewing that I didn't notice the first time was that Art LaFleur, who people may not necessarily recognize the name, but he's the guy who plays Babe Ruth in The Sandlot. He's one of the White Sox players.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh,
in the
yeah.
background, you don't really notice him. He doesn't have many lines, but that is pretty cool.
No, but he does have the good one where he says, "Don't wink."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then of course James Earl Jones, he's just fantastic as well. And we'll get to his famous speech from this movie as well. So I'm really excited to dive into this with you guys.
Yeah,
Let's get
great
into it.
movie.
Very cool. So to begin though, before we actually go into the movie itself, I wanted to show a clip that interview that Kevin Costner did on the Conan O'Brien show, talking about like I guess the emotional significance of this movie. In fact, kind of talking about it like it's the one of those rare movies where it's like perfectly acceptable for men to cry, even though there's no crying in baseball, right?
That is true. That is true.
But no, I mean, definitely we go off of the themes of like the relationships that fathers have with their sons, and it's really cool. In fact, more poignant now as adults, maybe
Yeah.
more so than when we were kids.
And to Nick's point, having the movie be different, seeing it as an adult where I have my own kids, I've never paid attention to the very beginning of the movie where he tells the story about his dad.
Right.
I kind of always skip that because I was like, let's get to the baseball.
Yeah.
But
Like
I thought,
well, to your
I
point,
thought it changed it.
I always know the basic moral, like at the end, playing catch with your dad.
Mhm.
Kind of the father-son relationship is always, like in essence, the moral of the story. But yeah, I agree. Those little details that as a youngster, like I didn't cry as a youngster. Like, oh, I was telling Sarah today, I'm like, I probably would have laughed at adults that cried at it when I was, 14 or something when I watched it. But as an adult, yeah, no, totally different meaning and emotion to
Well,
it.
yeah, I mean, I think right from the very beginning that the movie, the tone of the movie is fathers and sons,
Yes.
which, and when you get older, it changes, as your parents get older and,
Mhm.
closer to that time period where they may not be around.
Mhm.
That's one of the things for me. It's right from the very beginning where he's telling his dad's story. It did kind of make me go like, oh man, maybe makes me think of my dad's story, and even
Yep.
my grandpa. Truthfully,
Oh yeah.
as a huge St. Louis Cardinals fan, we knew that growing
Yeah.
up. He was a baseball guy, and so it made me think about my dad and my grandpa's relationship even. But
When
again,
I
right
would
at the
even
very beginning.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I would even say like I remember when we would go to Grandma and Grandpa's on Sundays for dinner, the Cardinals game was always on. And then our dad always talked about listening to Vin Scully on the radio for the Dodgers. I would say Grandpa didn't talk a lot of baseball, but it was always on.
I mean, look, he talked a lot of trash when we were younger. I remember that.
Well,
Like if the Cardinals beat the Dodgers, I mean, I'm
well,
talking
yeah,
like really young, like 4 or 5 years old. That guy would call me on the phone just to
I
rub
don't
it in.
I don't remember that, but I was
Oh
too
yeah,
young then.
he used to do that with me every single time the Cardinals would win. That phone would ring as soon as the game was over, and it'd be Grandpa.
That is
Want
pretty
to talk a
cool.
little smack?
That
Yeah.
is pretty cool.
Very good stuff. Very good stuff. So let's go ahead and jump into that clip. I want to. It's a really cool way to start off the show. Let me go ahead and bring up the interview that Conan O'Brien did with Kevin Costner.
There aren't many great, truly great baseball movies. You have made two of them. Three.
Well, Love of the Game. I pitched a perfect game. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
A perfect game.
Three
in
of them. I
Yankees-
was going to say. Yes. Three. But like Field of Dreams and Bull Durham are iconic films about baseball, and I'm just curious, when you go to watch a baseball game, what's it like? I mean, people must react to you differently in that venue.
Yeah, I have been surprised at it. I mean, the whole thing with celebrity and even making movies and the fact that the baseball world takes me in. They asked me to introduce the 50 greatest players up in Boston, and I thought there's got to be 100 guys better for this than me. And finally the guy said, no, we want you to do it. So wherever I go, I'm asked to play, down on the field with the guys, and so it's a nice hall pass I get with baseball. So I'm appreciative of that.
And another thing we were curious about, as we were talking about this today as well, that Field of Dreams, it's an unusual film in that men, universally, all guys, when we watch it, we tear up at one point. And we're ashamed to admit that we do that, but that is one of the few films that makes all men cry. What is the secret to making men cry in a movie?
I don't know. That movie is, I think, our generation's Wonderful Life. It's a wonderful life, and it happens, and it doesn't matter how often you watch that movie. When you ask your dad to have a kid, it seems to get people, and I'm just glad to have films that that's what's possible with film. That's absolutely why we make them. Is that there's always possible for something to happen that you didn't think was possible when you went into the movie, and that's why I believe in the movies, and that's why I make them.
So very good stuff. I mean, I love how the way Kevin Costner just comes off, just very gracious and generous, and just, I mean, loves the game, which is pretty cool. And the fact that MLB is like, inviting him out to do the introduction for the 50 greatest players. In fact, they do a tribute game, right? They actually play in the actual field in Iowa. Is that right?
Yeah, they've done it like 2 or 3 seasons now.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And then just the comments that he was just making, the fact that, yes, we touch on like, personal issues of like, the relationships that fathers and sons have with each other. And that's something, yes, as an adult, we definitely think about. It's one of those things you kind of wish you thought about maybe more so as a kid, but you hinted at it earlier, Tad, the fact that when you get to an older age and you realize that your parents won't be around forever. I mean, it's just, it makes those memories that much more enjoyable. And the fact that baseball is so universally loved, and it's so simple to actually get together and play catch. Something so simple as that, I think, is actually really, really meaningful.
Well, I think it's great that, like I was telling my wife today, it's not a baseball movie, right? It's not about baseball.
Right.
Yeah, there are other movies that are about baseball. The longer you watch the movie, the more you're realizing there's a much deeper, right? Baseball is kind of the road you're driving down, right? To tell the story, but it's not a movie about baseball. It goes much, much deeper than that. And to me, it makes it goes, any baseball movie to me is a good movie, but to me, it changes this movie from a good movie to a great movie because it does get you in the feels.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of storytelling going on and interconnections, and where it starts out with, one man, and we haven't said it yet, but if you build it, he will come, and I love how James Earl Jones' character gets pulled in and has its own, like, he's not tied to that. It has its own story within the story. And then I love when the daughter, closer to the end, falls off, and what's the character? I can't remember his name now, but the guy who never got the chance, but they picked him up and came to the field, and then he stepped off.
Moonlight
Moonlight
Grant.
Grant.
Yeah, how, like, also showing that, like, that life away from baseball ended up being more valuable for him, and the lives he saved, even though baseball seemed like the most important thing. So yeah, like you're saying, Tad, like it's a great story kind of around baseball, but that really isn't the moral of the story. It's about father, son, people, loved ones, connections, what your life isn't worth one thing. It's not just baseball. There's more to life than what you think there is as a youngster.
Very cool. So speaking of that iconic line that you just mentioned, Nick, let's go ahead and jump into the first clip I wanted to show. So we hear it for the very first time when Kevin Costner's character Ray is just out in the field, and we hear the iconic line that everybody recognizes, regardless of if you've even seen this movie. So let's go ahead and jump into it right now.
If you build it, he will come.
Hey, Annie! Annie, what was that?
What was what?
That voice just now, what was it?
We didn't hear anything.
All right.
If you build it, he will
Okay, you must have heard that.
Sorry. Hey, come on in to dinner. Let's go, Pumpkin.
So really good stuff as well. In fact, one other point that I wanted to mention that I hadn't mentioned earlier was the musical score was done by James Horner, really famous Hollywood composer, done so many movies. In fact, maybe the most famous work was the Braveheart soundtrack. But I think the music actually plays a really key aspect to this particular scene because it's kind of like it's haunting a little bit to the point where, like he's freaking out. Like, what am I hearing? What am I listening to? But again, like the line is just so iconic, right up there with like, may the force be with you, or like any other number of Hollywood lines you can come up with, really.
I just love that he asked his wife, do you hear that? And she's like, nope. It's funny, as I was looking this up too earlier today, one of the Google questions was like, oh, is Field of Dreams about a schizophrenic? And I was just like, really, people? like watch the movie.
I think it's interesting that she doesn't hear it at first. There's almost like some religious undertones in this, right? Like as her faith builds, that there really is something talking to her husband. There's something going on. She begins to experience similar type things. She has the dream. And it's funny how the more faith she ends up having and all this happening, right? And you see it with, James Earl Jones. I think he's the same way. He's skeptical, but as his faith builds, he has more revealed to him. And then, right, the daughter just, it seems from the very beginning, believes it and sees it. And it just goes all in with her dad, which I kind of love, right? Because girl dads, I think there's even though it's fathers and sons, there's that relationship with him and his daughter.
Yeah.
Also, which I think is pretty cool.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. To that point, Tad, I always remember like back in church for Sunday school, when your mom was our teacher, she would always just say the fact that fathers have a very special relationship with their daughters, just like how sons have a very special relationship with their mothers. So again, like you can see just the love that Karen, the daughter, has for Ray, for Kevin Costner's character. And we're going to get into that right now. I want to show clip number 2. This is where Ray is explaining to Karen like the whole history of the White Sox scandal and why Shoeless Joe Jackson is such a big deal. So this is a really key part of the movie. So let's go ahead and jump into this clip right now.
Ty Cobb called him the greatest left fielder of all time. They said his glove was the place where triples go to die.
Could he hit?
Could he hit? Lifetime average 356, third highest in history.
Why'd they call him Shoeless Joe?
Well, when he was still in the minors, he'd bought a new pair of spikes and they hurt his feet. So about the 6th inning, he took them off and played the rest of the game in just his socks. The other players kidded him, called him Shoeless Joe, and the name stuck.
He's gonna lose his farm.
Damn fool.
Then in 1919, his team, the Chicago White Sox, they threw the World Series.
What's through?
It means they lost it on purpose. Gamblers paid them to. Except Shoeless Joe. Now, he did take their money, but nobody could ever prove he did a single thing to lose those games. I mean, if he's supposed to be throwing, how do you explain the fact that he hit 375 for the series and didn't commit one error, huh?
I can't.
12 hits, including the series' only home run. He said he's trying to lose.
It's ridiculous.
The commissioner of baseball suspended 8 of the players, including the great Shoeless Joe Jackson, for life.
What's suspend?
Means they never let him play the game again. You know, my father said he saw him years later playing under a made-up name in some 10th-rate league in Carolina. Said he put on 50 pounds and the spring was gone from his step, but he could still hit. Dad used to say nobody could hit like Shoeless Joe.
I think that's the first time I've ever seen you smile when you mentioned your father.
I have just created something totally illogical.
That's what I like about it.
Am I completely nuts?
Not completely. It's a good baseball field, Ray.
It's kind of pretty, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. So a lot to unpack with that particular scene as well. And just to give people a little bit of context in case for whatever reason you haven't seen this movie. Yeah, so Ray hears the
Spoilers.
voice. Yeah, spoilers. Ray hears the voice. He builds the field, not really understanding why. But again, knowing knowing the history of the White Sox, the scandal that had happened, which is kind of a fascinating topic in and out of itself, really.
Yeah.
But then, explaining to his daughter everything about it. And then the fact that, the townsfolk are telling him, you're crazy. You're going to lose your farm for doing this. It's just insane. But he still just stuck to his guns and did it anyway. So it was actually pretty interesting, I thought.
One thing I noticed this time watching it from when I was younger is, when he's talking to his daughter, it was, as a youngster, it was cool. You're hearing the story of baseball, but you're not getting, like, I didn't put the connection together of father-daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I do love a couple things. One, how his wife, when he says, I think I got to build a field, my father never did anything spontaneous and I just got to do it. And she's like, all right, well, if you think you need to do it, I'll support you. And I looked at Sarah and was like, I'd like to see that happen with a modern woman. Not that it wouldn't, but crack that old joke. But I love, like, in that storytelling, like, you have that where the wife's like, all right, if you think you need to do it, do it. How he's telling his daughter stories that he heard from his father, in essence, and they're having a good time. And then you switch to the end there where he's still telling that story to his wife, and her comment of, like, oh, that's the first time I've seen you smile when talking about your father. Just like, that story is joy. He didn't, he doesn't realize it, but it really is joy, a good memory of his father. He just doesn't realize it, that he's sharing with his granddaughter, and they're having joy together in that story. He's really enjoying telling her.
Yeah, it's funny watching this. I thought two things. One, right, we're all baseball fans. We're all dogs. Why? Because our dads would talk about who?
They're heroes,
right?
Yeah, happens to be,
right? Sandy Koufax.
Yeah.
Don Drysdale, Maury Wills,
Vin Scully.
Vin Scully. I mean, it's so funny.
Tommy Lasorda.
Right? Like, I feel like we experienced the same thing that Ray's daughter's experiencing with her dad. Which is, when we were little, we had dads that talked about their baseball heroes, and it made us love the game. But then I also thought about Stan Musial, the great Stan the Man, who was my grandfather's absolute hero when it came to baseball. And he would tell us stories, about Stan Musial and how good of a hitter he was. And then my dad would tell us stories about Stan Musial because his dad was such a huge fan.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's so funny how, I don't know, I mean, can you grow up in America, at least in our time, and not have a dad tell you baseball stories? I mean, I think you look at LA especially, right, where we all grew up, and I mean, it bleeds blue.
Yeah.
Because of Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale and Maury Wills and, all those players back from the early 60s, who are our father's heroes.
Just the history of baseball coming to the West Coast,
Yeah, but it connected me to this movie because it did make me think about my dad and my grandpa.
Yeah, I agree.
It made it personal. Oh, not a lot of movies make it personal for you. Mm-hmm. I think that's a pretty rare thing in movies.
Oh, absolutely. Totally agree, Tad. In fact, I mean, I like to the point you had talked about earlier about going beyond, like, just baseball, but the fact that we're sharing stories, that we're continuing on to share the legacies, and then they will get passed down to future generations. That it just keep getting passed down and passed down. So that's an important thing, I think. Whatever it is that we're passionate about, we definitely pass on to the next generation. In this case, it happens to be baseball. But again, as mentioned before, it's just such an easy thing to really get into because it's so fun and so easy to play. But
when I think about this, because we all did this together, when the Dodgers played the Boston Red Sox in the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Right. How important was it for all of us to go to that game? right? I mean,
Okay,
like that was
We made it happen.
right. That was the biggest freaking deal for us.
Yeah.
Like we put up with the traffic, how crowded it was, all because our dads would tell us about how they went to the Coliseum to watch Dodgers play baseball.
Yeah.
So
It's true.
we had to do it. Like we could not miss out on that experience.
By the way, it wouldn't have mattered if it was the world champion Boston Red Sox. We would have been there no matter who they played for
Right,
that
because
reason.
we wanted to experience the stories that
Yeah.
our dads would tell us about when they were kids.
Mhm.
Right. And I think it's cool because anytime they show that on TV now, you're watching a game or something comes up where they talk about that game, like I tell my kids, like I was there. I was at like I was
Right.
at that game. Like we were there. We did that.
Mhm.
Right. I mean, how cool is it that like we wanted to live the great stories that our dads told us growing up, even if it was just for one night.
Yeah.
And just a preseason game too. So I mean, a game that inconsequentially didn't really even matter. So
Yeah.
Right, but we'll
Exactly.
never forget it. It was
Yeah.
such a big deal. We'll never forget it. And our seats were terrible.
yeah.
I still
But
got the
that
hat I
didn't
bought
matter.
at that game too.
But yeah, they definitely went all out to put on a really good fan experience. The fact that we were there all day, that we got to take pictures with championship trophies from 81 and 88. It was just, a really awesome, great day.
I think since we brought it up, my favorite part is that, busy day, lots of stuff going on, and like they bring out the teams. Remember they brought out
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
they brought out the teams on the stage, and there was only like 2,000 people around because you had to be there at the right time, and like, oh crap, there's the team like 35, 40 feet away, right there, giving it a quick interview.
Mhm. Well, if I remember correctly, I think Tad, you're the one who pointed out, hey, we should probably stand right here against the rail. I think something's going to happen. So
Yeah,
we
I
did. We
think
waited
so.
for a couple minutes, and then sure enough, the whole team came out. So we were front row right against the rail where it's a swarm of people just like surrounding us because we got there first. So
Just got lucky. A little inspiration.
Mhm. Awesome. Well, speaking of inspiration, though, so I want to go ahead and share the next clip. This is when the brother-in-law, so Ray's brother-in-law, is coming in telling him, hey, the bank's going to foreclose on your farm. You have to sell. But then James Earl Jones is there, and he's explaining to him, like, no, we can't sell. People are going to come, Ray. And just gives a really impassioned speech, the way that James Earl Jones can deliver. So let me go ahead and play that clip right now.
All right. This is fascinating. It is. But the fact remains is that you don't have the money to bring the mortgage up to date, so you're still going to have to sell. I'm sorry, Ray. We got no choice.
Ray, people will come, Ray.
They'll come to Iowa for reasons they can't even fathom. They'll turn up your driveway, not knowing for sure why they're doing it. They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past. Of course, we won't mind if you look around, you'll say. It's only $20 per person. They'll pass over the money without even thinking about it. For it is money they have, and peace they like.
Ray, just sign the papers.
And they'll walk out to the bleachers. Sit in shirt sleeves on a perfect afternoon. They'll find we have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines. Where they sat when they were children and cheered their heroes. And they'll watch the game. And it'll be as if they'd dipped themselves in magic waters. The memories will be so thick they'll have to brush them away from their faces.
Ray, when the bank opens in the morning, they'll foreclose.
People will come, Ray.
You're broke, Ray. You sell now or you lose everything.
The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball. America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again. But baseball has marked the time. This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again. Oh, people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
So yeah, tons to unpack with this scene as well. Really powerful, really poignant. In fact, to the point of what we were just discussing as well about about our heroes and going to see them. That's what Terrence Mann, James Earl Jones's character, was saying. Like, people are going to come to cheer on their heroes, their favorite players, and it's just a huge part of our culture, and just really inspiring for any of us. Like, regardless of which team you're cheering for, even if it's a team I don't like, as long as you're going to cheer for your favorite players, then I totally get and understand the appeal why everyone loves this game so much.
I think it's my favorite line in any movie ever. I mean, first off, James Earl Jones, freaking Darth Vader is given the line with that deep voice.
You're stealing what I was going to say.
Yeah, but I've always loved it because to me it embodies the game of baseball. Mm-hmm. It's not just a game. I think you can go back to earlier in the movie when Shoeless Joe first shows up and he's talking to Ray, and he makes a very similar, kind of line in the movie where he talks about, the smell of the grass and the sound of the bat, or I think it's the ball hitting the glove, and how he just loves the game. And I love the fact that you have that, and he kind of sets up the baseball part of it. You just love the game because everything about it is great. And then it transitions into Terrence Mann's quote where it's more than just a game. It's a lifestyle. It's America. It's history. It's our past. It brings everybody together. And I mean, my experience is baseball seems to do that for people.
I'd agree. I was kind of going down that same line you just brought up. I'm like, okay, James Earl Jones, Darth Vader, of course, Coming to America, the King, classic. Lion King, Mustafa voice, another classic. Sandlot, he's in the Sandlot, another baseball movie, and many more movies. But like, this is by far his greatest scene ever, and I love that. Like, he's a grown man, but it's almost like he's a child, like the love of the game and just the story, and yeah, just he's almost playing it like a child, and I just think it's one of the greatest. I don't know if I'd say it's the greatest, but it's up there for sure. I think it's his greatest acting in line ever in his career. Personally, it's at least my favorite for him, over all the great Darth Vader lines. Yeah, I just love it. It just like it, you almost to Costner, like, oh, you want to tear up because it does invoke
it's
the memories, right, of going to games as a child. And like, that's what I thought. Like, oh, like Tad, like you were an example to me as a kid. I remember you used to save money to go to Dodger games. And like, I followed suit. Like, we would do odd, stupid jobs as youngsters to save money so we could pay to go to Dodger games.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny because obviously the three of us have a lot of really good memories at Dodger games. Mm-hmm. I mean, gosh, I don't think I could count how many games we've been to together. It was a glue for us in a lot of ways when summertime would come around. But I mean, for me, I go to games, I still have memories of, like for me, one of the earliest ones is, my dad just came home from work one day and goes, "Hey, we got some tickets. We're going." I think he didn't tell me we were going to the game. It was a surprise. And we took one of the neighbor kids with us, and there were seats in the old club level. It's the first time I ever sat there. So one, it was kind of a big deal because I'd never sat in those seats before, and it's Dodger Stadium. You want to sit everywhere.
Yeah.
At some point, and I still remember to this day vividly, Kenny Landreau getting hit by a pitch in the back, and he charged the mound. It was the first fight I'd ever seen at a baseball game. But I mean, I didn't understand it. I was probably maybe 4 years old, maybe 5. But that memory with my dad, the fact that he surprised me with the game, and I had this great memory that 40 plus years later I still vividly remember. There's something about baseball games when the people that I go with, the experiences we have there, even when they're negative, for Fernando Tatis hitting 2 grand slams in 1 inning against the same pitcher, but we were all there.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's funny. His son was playing the other day, and they were bringing that up because of the shoe change, where they could all wear shoes, and so his son, who's in MLB now, was wearing shoes of that day of his father hitting 2 grand slams in an inning. And I'm telling Sarah, like, I was at that game. Like,
Right?
holy crap. Like,
Right,
and I'm like, wait, but I had to Google it. I'm like, he's not playing baseball. She's like, yeah, that's his son. I'm like, okay. I didn't think he'd still be playing ball, but
see, to me, the funny thing about it is I think, and I'll say I was at that game. And then the next thing I think about is you guys that I was there with.
yeah.
Because it was a ton of fun, even though they got killed and they lost. And, from a baseball standpoint, it wasn't fun for us.
Actually, I'm trying to remember. That was us 3 and Corey Meyer, I feel like.
Well, from what I remember, with all the young men.
And Mike. Oh, was that the
Yeah,
okay?
I think so. I remember a really big group going for that game. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the young men. They I think Corey and Mike put it together, and we all went.
That makes sense.
But again, like for me, it's just that's what I love about that quote is you see baseball, you hear baseball. It's not just the game you think about, it's the people you experience the memories with. Your family, your closest friends, the guys you look at, and feel are your brothers. That's what I think about. And I love how every single year when baseball comes around, at some point that scene from the movie gets played. Like when you're at the ballpark or on the TV, and it brings back all those, it makes me feel like, yes, that's exactly how I feel, when I'm going to a baseball game. I think about my younger days, being there with you guys, the funny stuff that would happen, the stupid stuff we would say, just,
yeah.
It's awesome to me. It's such almost more than anything else for me. Those baseball memories that we have together and that I have with my family. I for some reason, because it surrounds baseball, they're so vivid for me. They're just so special. I can't explain why. And that's why I think James Earl Jones, Terrence Mann, hits the nail on the head about why people will come.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
one of the best lines.
Then one other point that I wanted to just bring up, because again, it's important that we discussed this part as well. The fact that the brother-in-law is telling him, hey, you have to sell. I mean, if you don't, you're going to lose the farm. You're going to lose everything. Use your property. And from the adult perspective, it could be really, really easy just to say, you know what, you're probably right. I probably should just demolish this thing. It's not worth it. But I mean, when we have those inspiring moments like that, it can really help you when times are tough. I mean, we can see that, Kevin Costner was going, the Ray character was going through so many tough times financially with his family, but he stuck to his guns and kept it. And not that I want to tell all people, hey, you can just shirk on your responsibilities and just do whatever you want with your money. But at the same time, when you hear those inspiring words like that, I think he can give you the courage to move forward with things that you're scared about doing. So another reason why I think it's really important. Oh, sorry, Tad, go ahead.
But I love how, I think to your point, I love how when he would act upon the prompting, he would get some type of confirmation after that he was on the right path. So I think it's important to understand that, to your point, it's not like he was just throwing mud against the wall and seeing what was sticking and, I just have this feeling I can't go away from. I think, he was following these promptings, but he was getting feedback that, hey, I'm on the right path. He kept having experiences that were showing him, okay, that feeling that I had, that voice that I heard, that was real. And so that's what I love about it. Again, there's some gospel undertones in that, that I think guys like us, when you've experienced those things, you're like, yeah, good for you, Ray.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, so much we can say about that particular scene, but let's go ahead and move on a little bit now. So I want to jump to this scene. This is the scene when we finally get to meet Ray's dad as a young man, which is a really cool, awesome scene. And again, just to give also clarification for those who haven't seen the movie, Ray had actually gotten to a really bad fight with his dad about his dad's love of Shoeless Joe Jackson, who he saw as kind of like, a criminal, a thug, like, intentionally throwing the World Series.
A cheater.
Yeah, a cheater basically. So and then we talked about it before that sometimes you say things that you regret and you don't get to take it back because you're our time is short. But at the same time, we see in these particular movies that you are given opportunities if you take advantage of it, and we get to see that Ray gets to take advantage of the fact that he gets to have one more great inspirational, inspiring moment with his dad. So let's go ahead and jump into this clip right now.
What? What are you grinning at, you ghost?
If you build it, he will come.
Oh my God.
What? What is it?
It's my father. Ease his pain.
Go the distance.
It was you.
No, Ray. It was you.
God. I only saw him years later when he was worn down by life. Look at him. He's got his whole life in front of him, and I'm not even a glint in his eye. What do I say to him?
Why don't you introduce him to his granddaughter?
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to thank you folks for putting up this field, letting us play here. I'm John Kinsella.
I'm Ray. My wife, Annie. This is my daughter, Karen. Karen, this is John.
Hi, John.
Hiya, Karen.
Well, we're gonna let you two talk. I mean, if all these people are gonna come, we got a lot of work to do. It's very nice meeting you.
Yeah.
Come on up.
So I love the line that Ray Liotta's character of Shoeless Joe Jackson repeats to him when he says, "No, Ray, it was you. You did all this." So it goes along the lines of what Tad was talking about earlier, the fact that Ray had received the promptings and took upon the courage to act on it. And by doing so, he was able to have this momentous occasion, this moment occur that he gets to meet his father as a young man, which is just got to be a really awesome and interesting and kind of strange and weird concept to look at, I think. The movie Back to the Future kind of deals with that as well, like, getting your parents as young people, which would be a really cool experience, I think, to have. But yeah, again, there's a really powerful emotional scene that he gets to meet his dad and actually have the opportunity to reconcile with him.
I hate the fact he's wearing a Yankee jersey, though. Pisses me off every time. No, I love, it's interesting in that scene, right? Because he to Karen, he wants to say that, this is my dad, but he doesn't. Mm-hmm. And he says, this is John. But I think, if we keep watching the clip as his dad's walking away, he says, "Dad, do you want to have a catch?"
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I think you get the feeling that, right, does his dad know who he's talking to? And you're almost thinking, no, he must not know. And then when he says, "Dad, do you want to have a catch?" He says, I would really like that. I would love that. it kind of changes everything to where, right, if you build it, he will come, ease his pain, and it, to me, again, it made it even more personal at that point. They're like, yeah, I mean, this is exactly what his dad wanted. That it was that important to him to see his son again, and just have any kind of interaction with him. And of course, that's the scene everyone cries in. But it's just awesome.
It's a perfect scene, if you will.
Yeah.
But it also made me wish, man, our dad's got a new shoulder. He probably couldn't play catch, but it was like, haven't played catch with dad in forever. What would it be like just to play catch again? To bring back that childhood memory.
Absolutely, yeah. But let's go ahead and bring up that clip now. So actually, it's the final clip. So Tad is talking about it. Let's go ahead and conclude that scene where he finally actually does get to finally reconcile with his dad. So let's go ahead and bring that up right now.
You catch a good game.
Thank you. It's so beautiful here. For me, it's like a dream come true. Can I ask you something? Is this heaven?
It's Iowa.
Iowa? Could have sworn it was heaven.
Is there a heaven?
Oh, yeah. It's the place dreams come true.
Maybe this is heaven.
Good night, Ray.
Good night, John. Hey, Dad? You want to have a catch?
I'd like that.
So really great stuff as well. In fact, we get to hear the other iconic line from this movie where he asks Ray, "Is this heaven?" It's Iowa. Like it was repeated 2 times in the movie. Earlier in the beginning of the movie, it's first said by Shoeless Joe. So again, I love the fact that Ray's just looking around, and John had to make the comment, it's really beautiful out here, and then Ray's just kind of looking around, realizing, you know what, this actually could be heaven here. The fact that he looks to his wife and daughter and realizes and sees the life he's built for himself, has the gospel principles as well, as Tad had mentioned, that we can make a heaven on earth for ourselves, surrounded by our loved ones and doing the things that we love and we're passionate about. So again, really great scene, really tremendous scene.
Yeah, right. I think the family part is the whole key. When he has that conversation with when Ray has the conversation with Terrence Mann, and when they're driving in the bus, and he's talking about when his and his dad's relationship got fractured
because of his book,
because of the book, right? And he said, "I never had a catch with them again after that." And then and I love how he says, I wanted to go back and reconcile, and I just didn't know how. And then it was too late. He says, by the time I made it back, my dad was gone, and I never had that. So I think even, right, the foreshadowing earlier in the movie of, what really mattered most to Ray, and I think even his dad, wasn't baseball. That's why I think it's funny, right? We look at it as a baseball movie, but it's not, it's really not a baseball movie. It's a movie about family connections and, you know, what is heaven? I mean, I don't think anybody looks at heaven as not having your family around, right? Everyone seems to be happiest when the people they love the most are around. And I love that there's that epiphany at the end because of his dad. His dad's kind of the one that points it out. I could have swore this was heaven.
Right, because he was with his kid.
Yeah, right. And that's when Ray looks around. He looks over his wife and daughter. And I think it clicks with Ray right then. Right? Like, yeah, this is what matters most. Just awesome.
You pretty much said everything I was planning on saying, so I won't repeat it.
Very cool.
I mean, what a great movie, though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's, gosh dang. Right? You forget how good it is until you watch it again.
Yeah, that's a question I want to ask then. So I'm trying to think, before today, when was the last time I actually watched that movie? It's got to be like pre-mission, potentially. I'm trying to think post-mission if I've watched it. I can't think of a time.
It's kind of funny we bring up like the concept like family connections and relationships. When Avery was an infant and we had to do the midnight feedings, for her, like when it was my turn to do it and Allison's sleeping, I would usually put on a random movie, and Field of Dreams was one of them. So I watched it maybe like 7 years ago.
That's cool.
At the same time, I'm watching it at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm really tired. I'm like half asleep. I'm not really paying attention, but I did watch it then just because it was like, okay, let's put a random movie on while I feed her and get her to sleep. But it was cool just watching it and then hearing the musical score, seeing the scenes, and just like holding my daughter in my arms and feeding her. So again, along the lines of like the family connections that we have, that we need to pass along these stories so that way they can know them and then they can pass it on to future generations as well.
I think for me, I probably watch it more frequently than you guys do.
Right.
You know how much I love baseball. So I watch it at least, I think every season that starts up at some point I watch it. And then there's a handful of them every baseball season I seem to watch again.
Sandlot.
So, like Sandlot, especially now that I have kids old enough to like kind of watch it and like it so much.
Right.
So
that's the thing. In this house, Isaac likes throwing the football. Baseball still is on the bottom of the list.
Well, but I think, like, honestly, Field of Dreams, I think it's a hard movie for little kids. I don't think
after watching it,
yeah.
After watching it, I'm like, no, as much as I want to be like, we should watch this, no, it's too young.
Right. And so I think it's almost a process, right? Like, you kind of start them out with the Sandlot. Like, I love baseball. I want them to love baseball. The Sandlot's a great movie for that.
Yep.
But for my wife, she makes fun of me every time I turn it on. The Field of Dreams. She's like, really? Again? But I can't get past just, gosh, it embodies so much of everything that I love about my life. I love baseball. I love my family. You look at the relationship that Ray and Terrence end up having where they become close friends, so it connects me with my friends when I watch it, who I know love baseball. There's some gospel principles in there that I absolutely love. I just love it. I love the movie. And I think that's probably why I watch it at least once a year, usually by myself, because no one else wants to watch it with me. But
no, I'm thinking I need to watch it more often. After watching it again, that's not a movie that gets old at all. Like, you can learn something new every time watching it. Like, as you get older and your life changes, you'll relate differently probably every time you watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so.
It's pretty cool that the Dodgers, I think they put it on the big screen on the field, right, where they have like movie night. You can actually go on the field with blankets and actually sit and watch it, which would be really cool experience to do sometime.
Yeah.
Great stuff. That's all the talking points I had tonight throughout the movie. Was there anything else you guys wanted to bring up or discuss about Field of Dreams?
I just want to say, like, just how great of an actor Kevin Costner is. I mean, obviously in every movie he does, but what a great athlete he is. I mean, really, I just, when he's throwing batting practice to Shoeless Joe, I mean, he looks like a ball player.
Mhm.
And when he's hitting fly balls, he looks like a ball player. But just what a great actor, and what chemistry him and James Earl Jones had in this movie.
Yeah.
It really, really makes the movie for me.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think I remember reading online that he had aspirations to actually play. So I mean, so his love of baseball is legit, and that I guess he went into acting because he couldn't make it in the big leagues. But it's still just really, really cool, because if you can see someone who genuinely loves the game, it's him.
Oh yeah, I think that's why all his baseball movies are so great. I mean, Bull Durham, dude, oh my, we could do another one on Bull Durham.
I was
That
just gonna
movie is
say,
phenomenal.
I
probably should.
Yeah. I haven't watched that in forever, and I'm like, all right, next weekend when the kids are gone, Sarah, she doesn't know this, but that's what we're watching.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great movie, right? For Love
It's
of
a
the Game.
classic.
I mean, yeah, it's a love story, but gosh dang, the way they intertwine For Love of the Game into baseball, you forgive them for making it a love story, because the baseball parts are so good. And then, I mean, I don't know who the genius was who got Vin Scully, to narrate a lot of that movie, or to do the play-by-play with Kevin Costner out there. But yeah, the guy
Wouldn't
had
surprise me if it was Costner himself,
well,
because
he just
lives
has a
in
knack.
LA.
Well, and I think he understands baseball. I think he understands what people want to see and hear when it comes to baseball, because he's a fan.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, we should definitely do For Love of the Game, which technically is actually celebrating its 25th anniversary this year, being released in 1999. So not that I had to stick with anniversaries. That's kind of what I've been going with, but I can do whatever I want on the podcast.
Yeah. That's a good way to go about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it gives you a reason.
Yeah.
Right? It gives you a reason to do it.
Yeah. So
I mean,
we'll definitely, yeah.
Right. I mean, I think there's a lot of them you could do. I think The Sandlot is an absolute classic.
Yeah.
Dude, Major League to me is still the greatest baseball movie of all time.
Yes.
I mean, that movie is just awesome.
By the way, partially because of our story about it, in my opinion, which we should go in another podcast.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely touch on all these.
There's Albert.
There's no shortage of material to go over.
I'm sure we've told you before. We'll have to refresh your memory, but how we were able to watch Major League, a rated R movie, in the Turner House.
I believe I've heard this story before. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you've heard it.
Yeah.
It's just classic.
But yeah, there's something about baseball movies. Obviously, Field of Dreams is up there. I mean, Major League, my favorite because of the comedy.
Yes.
I mean, Field of Dreams is right up there with it. I mean,
I would say they're pretty equal, because one's
like
as a comedy, it's top tier. Field of Dreams as a drama, top tier. They're both 10s, but coming at the sport from
different
dramatical version.
Well, I mean, you're not going to get any life lessons out of Major Leagues.
I don't know. Ricky Vaughn learns, jail, not the right way. Glasses help. We can name some others, but
yeah, I love Field of Dreams. There's something romantic about it. There's just something about it that draws you in if you love baseball. And then again, you're reminded as you watch it, it's so much deeper than just a baseball story.
It kind of made me think of The Godfather, in that I remember, when I turned 18 or 19, mom was like, well, you've never seen The Godfather? And I feel like this is that kind of movie where when the kid's at age, like, you haven't seen Field of Dreams? Like, you have to watch it. Like, it's a must-see movie for every human being.
Right. It's so funny because Mackenzie's never seen the whole thing. She's seen a clip here, a clip there. And I keep telling her, if you just watch
and she loves
the
baseball,
whole thing,
so
yeah, I'm like,
that's funny.
If you'll actually sit down and watch the whole thing, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
But if you just see clips and think of it as a baseball movie, that's a little bit weird because there's dead people.
Right.
If that's all you think about it, like, yeah, you won't have a desire to watch it. But if you just sit down and you watch it from beginning to end, right? I mean, anybody who had a father that they watched baseball with, it's gonna get you. It's gonna hook you, because it's that kind of a movie. It's a cinematic masterpiece, in my opinion.
Which, by the way, it sucks because we hardly get any Rangers games here. It's
Oh, it
horrible.
does.
Like, I'll go look for baseball, and we have, YouTube cable TV, and we don't get that many baseball games. It kind of sucks.
It's just funny, right? To me, they don't make movies like this anymore.
No, they don't.
I mean, movies like this are special.
They absolutely are. Yeah. So I love that we can just sit down and discuss it for its anniversary, and we'll definitely do this again for many more movies as well. Are we good to wrap up, or anything last minute thoughts?
No, I think we covered it all.
I
think we
just
did.
love you guys, man. Albert, I appreciate you having us on. We got families and stuff now. It's a little harder to get together, but I enjoyed just seeing you guys and talking like the old days.
Well, absolutely. Definitely love you guys too. So grateful for our friendship, and we build memories like this. And this is my new favorite hobby, just getting together, recording our conversation, even if it's just for our own amusement. But for what I can gather, people are really enjoying this. So that makes me happy.
Good.
Nice. Very nice.
Very cool.
Good.
Well,
I do think we need to have at least one more of these with Jeff and Derek and the three of us.
Oh,
and
okay.
if we could get Dave Weston. Yes, Dave, if you're listening to this, I'm calling you out.
Walter Weston.
All right. You need to come on.
Yeah. I think he will. I think we will. If we can
I think he will too.
Yeah.
I think he will.
Good.
Awesome. Okay. Well, Nick, Tad, thank you so much for giving me your time. Everybody listening, go watch Field of Dreams, even if it's been years since you've seen it, or if you've never seen it, be ashamed of yourself and then go watch it.
And if you're not ashamed, you should be even more ashamed.
Good stuff. Okay.
It won't disappoint.
Very cool. Okay. Thanks, guys. Have a good night, everybody.
All right. You too.